introduction to one of my favorite people on earth, Mr. Stephen Oliver, who is with the Advisor Marketing Podcast. Now, Stephen is a true maverick, and I mean that in every sense of the word. Not only in our business, but I have to tell you, his clients universally love him, and they grow at rates that they wouldn't believe it's possible. Now, on this podcast, in each episode, Stephen is joined by various members of his team or special guests to share insider secrets to rapid growth and high net profits in your financial advisory practice. So I just want you to know you're in for a wild ride, new information, and a lot of exciting new future because of Stephen Oliver.
Okay, well, welcome. Hey, I've got a very special guest today. Nina, you and I are right on the same page here. This is Nina Cooke. You're coming from the UK. What are you, 10 o'clock at night or something like that on your time?
This is late for me.
Yep. Yeah, it's I think you're still a 7-hour shift from I'm in Evergreen, Colorado, up in the mountains. But you've been working with financial advisors for several years now. And I know I discovered you through a mutual friend, through Dan Cuprell, who kind of does what I do. You know, we do it in different ways, but we both do marketing support and coaching for financial advisors. And now he's, as we were just discussing, he's working with attorneys on turning them into financial advisors, which we also work on, circle of influence, getting attorneys to, hand over their clients. But let's first introduce yourself, talk a little bit about your background and what you do, and then we'll talk about all the exciting work you've been doing with advisors.
Absolutely. It's great to be here. I've been working with financial advisors, as you said, in the capacity of helping them when they get stuck in a rut. They've plateaued, their business isn't growing, they're frustrated, they're putting in long hours, and they're trying lots of different systems, processes, strategies, and nothing seems to be shifting for them. They get to that point when they suddenly think, I may be the problem. When they get to that point, that's when we can have a conversation and talk about what they think they're doing in terms of tripping themselves up and getting in their own way. It could be lots and lots of different ways, which I'm sure we'll explore as we go through this. So that's what I'm principally doing, and also helping them with straightforward marketing in terms of outreach, follow up, all the stuff they know they should be doing, but they avoid doing. They procrastinate about it. And they have all of these scarcity stories going on. And, people aren't going to be interested. I'll get rejected in this sales conversation. They don't want to go there. But that's the lifeblood of their business. If they don't have conversations with prospects, they won't get clients. And also I help them with sales conversations as well. What I've found with the number of financial advisors I've worked with is that they like to talk more than listen to prospects. So I really help them to turn that around so they become deep listeners. And this helps them then to, once they know what the goals their clients have in life, then they're able to present their solution more effectively.
Yeah. I could pick up on 19 things you said there. I was just smirking because of couple of conversations I had just this last couple of days. But what was your background? How did you end up in this niche and in this target? And as we were talking off camera, you were talking about doing bespoke programs, working with CEOs and developing their mindset. But how did you evolve to this point? What got you into the niche to begin with, and how did it evolve?
It started it started from childhood, really. I had a narcissistic sibling whose greatest pleasure was knocking the confidence out of me. Mm-hmm. I became very scared of being visible because every time I was visible, I was a target for her. So I learned that to keep myself safe, I needed to just stay in the background and not make any noise and not have people noticing me. It became very, very scary for me to be noticed by people. As I grew up, as you can imagine, with these limiting beliefs, it really impacted my life, impacted relationships, impacted my job for sure. I worked for Time Life Books in the London office. I could have been more successful in that. I was passed over for promotion because I was scared of authority figures. I wasn't able to meet them as an equal, get to know them, have that chat in the office. And I'm sure it had an impact on my career there, although I was very successful with the results that I got. I think it was really deep down wanting to be a role model for my children. I wanted to be authentically confident rather than trying to fake it all the time. And I'd look at them when they were young, and they had this lovely natural confidence about them. They'd talk to anyone. They weren't self-conscious. They were so comfortable in their own skin. And I thought, I want that. And I started a long journey of trying to fix myself because I felt that I was missing something that everyone else had. And that's what made me not being able to operate effectively and in a natural, organic way, in a very aligned way. And along my journey, I tried so many different things, Stephen. You can't imagine how many books I read. They call it rather than self-development, shelf development, because there are shelf loads of books.
Oh, yeah.
And I tried different things and I would toss them aside and say, well, this isn't giving me a permanent change. I want a permanent change. I don't want a temporary fix. I trained, I went to seminars, online trainings, coaches, mentors. And eventually I found a coach, and he said, the only reason you feel so unsure of yourself is because you believe your limiting beliefs are true about you. And I thought, okay, well, I've heard this stuff before, but, you know, I'll try. I'm desperate. I want to fix this. And he showed me how to identify my limiting beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize how important they were. I had a whole load of self-esteem limiting beliefs. I'm not good enough. There's something wrong with me. It's scary to be visible. Rejection is scary. You name it, I had it. I also had blocks around money, limiting beliefs around money, which I wasn't aware of, and also success beliefs as well. And as we started to dissolve these beliefs, and then I was able to plant new powerful beliefs in my subconscious, I had that change that I was looking for. It wasn't a eureka moment. It happened gradually. And I realized that I was able to start putting videos out, and I was able to talk to people as an equal. I wasn't scared of what people thought about me anymore. And this was a huge revelation to me. And my confidence just naturally grew to the point where I was able to talk to anyone as an equal. And my business, I had a personal shopping business at that time, it flourished because I was suddenly able to book corporate clients like Goldman Sachs and Ernst & Young and Sky. I was able to do interviews with BBC, radio, and it just felt so liberating. It's like my prison doors had been blown off. And I was able to play for the first time. It was very exciting. And I thought, okay, as a result of doing all this work on myself, my business has grown significantly without me working any harder. So if this can work for me, it can work for other entrepreneurs as well. I started working with coaches and consultants, and I also started working with financial advisors, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you're a coach or a consultant or financial advisor. The challenges are the same if you're in business, and the challenges are around procrastination, fear of taking action, fear of taking risks, lack of focus, overwhelm, money blocks, success blocks, self-esteem blocks, fear of sales conversations. All of these things, they're the same across the board. And that's what I do today.
Yeah, that's great. As you were talking at first, I was nodding about a couple of client conversations I've had recently, and what I was finding is those self-limiting beliefs and those blocks that people have. It is just amazing how it manifests itself in a lot of ways. We with our clients done a lot of cognitive behavioral therapy work, and I was catching one of our guys, and he was saying, as we were doing the marketing, well, doctors don't want to blank, and women don't want to blank. All of it had to do with working with them, their particular advisor, him individually. I was like, well, you don't have any idea what they want to do. What you're thinking is that's your limiting belief, or why what you're doing so far isn't working very well. Talk more about that. I find on the marketing side, just the hesitance to reach out, the hesitance to initiate, and the inability to iterate and figure out when they've got the message right for the individual person is pretty shocking, I guess.
Absolutely. I did a survey for my email list because I wanted to know what was the biggest challenge they had to growing their business. Because sometimes we assume things as marketers. We think, well, this is the problem. I thought, let's just find out what they think is the problem.
Yeah.
And I was quite surprised by the answer. I thought it would be around charging more or, something else. But what they came up with as their biggest challenge was the fear of putting themselves out there. They hate marketing because they feel so vulnerable. They feel exposed. They feel like a fraud. They feel the competition is better than them. Why would anyone be interested in anything they have to say? They feel they can't deliver on the promises that they make to their client, and the client may want a refund or their money back. They may badmouth them if they can't get the results for them. So therefore, all these fears, and there's a fear of being visible, the fear that I had, because it just feels so personal, doesn't it? When you're selling a service, you feel like you're selling yourself. And if someone says, no, thank you, that can feel very personal. So we will do everything we can to avoid pain and to have a comfortable life. If that means that we don't have many sales conversations because that saves us from getting a no, then we will go for that option, even though it has a terrible impact on our business. And that is something which many, many financial advisors struggle with. Is the most successful ones aren't necessarily the smartest or the most gifted or the best looking or anything like that. They're the ones who are consistently marketing, reaching out, doing that really fundamental marketing. It's not fancy funnels. It's just reaching out, following up, doing that on a consistent basis. And actually our results, they're not random. They're actually very predictable. If you take certain actions, if 5 days a week, you reach out to 5 people a day, at the end of the week, you've reached out to 25 people, at the end of the month, 100 people, there's a good chance you're going to have some good sales conversations set up. But it is that courage to do that and not take no for an answer and, go back again and again and keep finding new leads and networking and all of those things. It's basic marketing. It's low-cost marketing. And the people who do that regularly, they're the ones who have a thriving business.
Yeah. And what you said about it's not complex funnels and all that stuff. There's a real mismatch between the message that people who start exploring marketing, if you will, or online marketing or internet marketing, what they're hearing from all the I not too charitably call it the bozo explosion of gurus. There's all this advice that goes on that tends not to be very good advice, or it tends to really not be applicable to what a financial advisor should be doing. Certainly, is the whole idea of making it complicated, 92 different steps, all this different stuff, where really it's about getting a human being on the phone, getting a face-to-face meeting with a person, or Zoom, meeting as we're doing, and closing a sale. And they get so bogged down into I got to write 92 different emails and have them be beat to death with email, without the recognition that only 5% of the people who get the email are even going to read it. So they missed the whole point. Pardon me. But specifically, when you're working with an advisor in trying to get over that shift in their self-limiting beliefs, where do you start? What do you see are some of the first things that you want to get started with?
The first thing I want to get started with is for them to become really clear about what they want.
Yeah.
If you don't have a goal, you're not going to get anywhere close to it. And a lot of people don't really know what they want. It's very fuzzy. And often, having a sales conversation with a financial advisor, I say, what would you like in the next 12 months? Well, I don't want to do this, and I don't want that, and I don't. And I said, don't tell me what you don't want. Tell me what you do want. That
Right.
seems like really strange thinking for people, because we're so conditioned on focusing on what we don't want and our problems that we find it quite hard to start thinking about what we do want. And if they do start thinking about what they want, then it can be a very small goal. I said, well, tell me, if you went all the way to the end of the road with your goal, where would you get to? What is that you want? Oh, well, no, I couldn't, I can only have this. That's not true. We can have much more. So we start off with getting a very, very clear goal down. Not something that their parents want for them or their peer group or their partner or society. It's what they truly want. And most people never even get that far. Once we've got the goal, then we work backwards from that goal. Okay, so what can stop you from achieving that goal? What action, what pattern of behavior do you keep repeating that's stopping you from having that goal? Now, mostly it's avoidance behavior.
Mm-hmm.
What you're avoiding doing in your business that if you were to do it regularly would get you more clients. It comes down to outreach. 80% of the time, I'm not doing outreach. I'm not marketing. I'm not putting myself out there. I'm not getting leads. So we break down that pattern of behavior into, they sit down their desk. What happens? Do they get distracted, etc.? What's the emotion behind it? Then we dive beneath that pattern and we find out what are the table legs that are keeping that pattern in place. And the table legs are their limiting beliefs. So I'll say to them, what is it that you have to believe to be true to keep repeating this pattern? Well, I have to believe that I may not be able to get the results for my clients. I have to believe that actually I don't believe I'm good enough. I have to believe that rejection is scary. I have to believe that actually I'm a fraud. I'm not very good at this. So we find all the table legs and I take them through my unstoppable success process so they can dissolve that limiting belief in a matter of minutes and then plant a new powerful belief in its place. And once they start dissolving those beliefs, then we go back to that original action that they've been avoiding. And I ask them how, say you're sitting at your desk, you're at your computer and you're thinking of, phoning so-and-so or, sending them an email or a text. How does that feel for you now? Well, that feels different now. Yeah, that doesn't feel so bad. I feel I could do that. That's their action step. They have to, do so many reach outs. So everything I do has to be very applicable and very tangible for them that they can see I can get results by doing this work. And that is tying everything back into their actions, into their behavior, different actions get different results. It's not rocket science. It's actually very, very logical.
Yeah. No, going back to one of the things you said, that it was very interesting. On a marketing side, I tend to start with a very similar question, which is, and I work mostly with people who are more established, so they're not just starting out. But I'll say, okay, you've put together these 100 clients, and you're whining about them, but you just assembled them randomly. So if you went through your client list, who are the 10 that you just love to work with, that you'd love to work more with, that you click with, that you have a great relationship with, who are making you money, but also bringing joy to your life? And they have a hard time doing that. They say, well, I want to work with everybody. No, well, no. Who do you click with? Who is like, fits with you well enough that you really enjoy it. And it seems to me one of the reasons that we want to become good at marketing is so you can go find others like the ones that you already like and not have to take ones that aren't going to be a good fit, whatever it might be. Maybe they're in professions you don't understand. Maybe you have situations you're not good at. More likely, they just personality-wise, they don't click with you. And so it's amazing how hard it is for them to think of, let me build the perfect picture of what my ideal client would be, and to think beyond just dollars and cents and think into what's their background, what are their hobbies, what do they like, what kind of person is it you want to work with, and let's go find more of them.
So true, because we're working with people at the end of the day. We're not working with machines.
Yeah.
And having that connection is so important. I know I have some clients who I absolutely adore. I cannot wait to have a call with them. They make my day, and we just have a really close bond. I think there's a fear of niching, because we think, well, if we start niching, then we're going to miss out on all these other people. But actually, as I say to my own clients, you only need a few clients to have a really great business. You don't need thousands and thousands of them. And when you are a master marketer, you know this better than anyone, that when you have a strong niche, you have a strong message. You focus on a strong problem that they have and line everything up. And bingo, you start hitting a sweet spot. But very, very few people ever do this.
Yeah.
It's just a scattergun approach. And, trying one different strategy after another, the shiny object syndrome. So things aren't actually finished, or strategy isn't actually finished all the way through to see whether it would work before it's abandoned and something else is started. I remember one client said to me, he said, I've got so many half-built bridges. He started writing a book a number of years ago, and he wrote about 80% of it. And he said he hasn't finished that last 20% in the last, 4 or 5 years. Because his fear was that if he had a good book that he could put out there, he would suddenly, it may attract attention. And he didn't want attention. He wanted to sit quietly in his office. He didn't want it to be a lead generator for him. So we actually work against ourselves all the time and make decisions which are detrimental to our own happiness and our success, which sounds crazy, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, but it happens all the time. It certainly happens all the time.
There's self-sabotage on a classic scale.
It's Lee Milt here, and I'm delighted to interrupt you today and let you know that I've been working with Stephen Oliver for 10 or 15 years now. He's a great guy. I love all the research that he does. And I just wanted to let you know that if you're enjoying the content on this podcast, then you really want to make time to visit advisorwealthmastery.com. And why should you do that? Well, because you're going to receive 2 of his great books and actually one of mine called Success is an Inside Job. You'll also get a lot of absolutely free material on growing your practice through effective marketing. So again, take the time to go to advisorwealthmastery.com.
Yeah. I think the fear of missing out on people who aren't your ideal client is a really strange phenomenon. And it certainly comes from not having an abundance mentality, right? If I start thinking I've got to just get every sale I can get, and I don't, and again, from the not so much the mindset, but the marketing standpoint, if I'm feeding you with lots and lots and lots of traffic, of new prospective clients, you can suddenly feel like you can be selective, right? Because if I'm going to get 10 new clients this month out of 50, I can take the 10 that I want. On the other hand, if you only have 3 meetings this month, it's very hard to say no to 2 of the 3 of them, or even 3 of the 3 of them. And it is that self-limiting belief of how big the pond is, and that I've got to take everything that comes to me. But I think it's even more important is you really should build your business around what you want your life to look like, rather than have the business gradually control more and more aspects of your life in an unintended way.
Especially time.
Yeah.
There are so many financial advisors who spend many, many hours at the desk, more than they'd like to. They don't see their families enough. And I 100% agree with you. Build a lifestyle that your business fits into. And obviously that business has to give you the finances to, have a great lifestyle, look after your family. But otherwise, we only have so many hours. And when you look back, what are you going to regret? It is the classic question, is it? What are you going to regret when you look back? Could you have worked smarter? Could you have made more profit just by doing those key things which bring in more clients, and not wasting time on peripheral stuff, which is never going to add to your bottom line?
You bet. And what aspects of your business could you automate? What aspects of your business are you doing that don't require doing, that if you just didn't do it, nothing bad would happen? What can you outsource? Can you build a team underneath you so that you're orchestrating the team, not doing all the manual labor of the business, the whole working on the business, working rather than working in the business phenomena? All of those things seem to be concepts that are hard to put their arms around for financial advisors.
When it's yourself, it's very hard to see it. You can see it for other people, but we have so many blind spots. How many financial advisors have you spoken to who say they're doing $10, $20 an hour work because they don't want to hire someone to do that for them?
Yeah.
And this is just how we eat up our time and don't get the results that we want, because we don't want to make that leap of faith of bringing in a new hire who could take all of that, lower hour per hour work. They're brilliant at that. That's their expertise. But the financial advisor's expertise lies in, going out and getting new clients and serving them, not doing that admin work.
Yeah. Yeah. And then when they do bring on somebody, they tend to abdicate, not delegate activities. There's a whole other element of their management style, which is, again, I think, one of those self-belief systems. If you're bringing somebody into your organization, you need to give them a very clear expectation of what the values and goals are, very clear expectation of what the process is for developing those things, and have expectations on a daily, weekly, monthly basis on what the goals attainment is, rather than just, this is your title and go for it.
Exactly.
What are some of the, maybe expand on where we were before, some of the other self-limiting beliefs you see among financial advisors? I see an awful lot of blinders on, of not being willing to look at a bigger picture, and thinking that their industry is a certain way, their clientele has expectations that really isn't a true statement. So there's an awful lot of mind reading and awful lot of narrow thinking, it seems to me.
It really does. And when we have our own limiting thoughts, we project them onto other people, and we think, well, other people think like that as well. And that can really, get in our way of making good decisions. There's one question that I love asking my clients, and that is, what is your fear around being more successful? What is the downside for you if you had, a bigger business, if you had more clients? What would you stand to lose? Which is a strange question, because most people think, well, there's fear of failure, but there's also the fear of success. And some of them will say, well, I fear that if I'm too successful, then that would take time away from my family. I'd spend more time in the office. That's not true, is it? Because if you're more successful, you could hire someone to do more of the work, which means you could spend more time out of the office. Or some of them will say, well, there may be members in my family who wouldn't be happy if I suddenly became too successful, and I may lose friends. I may fall out with members of my family, so I don't want to rock the boat. But that's, again, it's not how they react to you is how they react to you. But is that going to hold you back in life? Are you going to allow what you think someone's going to think about you hold you back in life? Is that how you want to live your life, according to those fears? And some of them say, well, if I reach a certain level of success, then there'll be so much pressure to maintain it, because maybe my lifestyle will expand. Maybe my family will expect amazing holidays every year and all these different treats, and there'll be so much pressure on me to make sure I keep performing and growing all of this. And all of that can just knock them back and think, actually, I'm pretty comfortable where I am. It's not amazing, but it's okay. I can get by as I am. And I don't want to take the risk. I don't want to put in more hours. It's just too much effort. So that's all it's interesting, because if you think of our limiting beliefs as the foundation on which we make our decisions, and if you have all of these boxes that you've created around you, then you're going to be boxed in with your decision making, and you're not going to be making the best decisions for yourself and your family.
Yeah.
And we have to get rid of all of those boxes, so we actually have a bigger vision of what's available to us. We have more options on the table. And then we can start making intentional choices, rather than feeling I'm backed into a corner and I've only got one choice in front of me, because that is really scary.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, that's fantastic. So if let's go to the upper end. It seems to me that on the advisor side, the people who are, let's say, making a 7-figure a year income, they're at the end of spectrum where you would think that they were highly successful with what they're doing. Behind the scenes, they're all messed up on just about every category. It seems like I work with a number of those who are in that category, and financially they may have enough resources to have the house they wanted, the car they have, etc. But behind the scenes, they have, again, all the self-limiting beliefs that go with it. But they have a really difficult time building a team underneath them, building automated systems, building and they seem to have a really difficult time. Let's say they've been in the industry for 20 years, of getting outside of their little narrow box of what they think it is, and get outside of it's all about their salesmanship, and focus really on building a system as opposed to just continuing to effort through their own charisma, if you will. I'm sure you've had that experience. That probably describes the CEOs, where everything revolves around them.
Yeah, I think COVID was a real game changer, because some financial advisors pivoted. They started going online and doing webinars and really using online processes and systems, because they knew that this was an opportunity. And others just thought, okay, I'm going to wait for things to go back to normal, then I'll continue doing what I did before.
Yeah.
And it's a mindset, isn't it? There's the fixed mindset, there's a growth mindset. And the ones who I spoke to, a few who was saying business was booming for them. So the webinars were just bringing in so many new leads for them, and they were really excited about these new opportunities. So again, it's about, do you grab the opportunity and think, okay, it's a risk, but let's try and see what happens. I'll get lots of information and data. Or do you think, go back into the scarcity, limited mindset and think, it's not going to work. There's no point in me trying it. I can't make this work, and I've got to just carry on doing what I'm doing, even though I know it's only working to a certain extent. And that is where we have to look at, the belief system. Is it working for you? Is it working against you? But, the thing is, you can't make anyone do the mindset work, because if they believe that they need maybe a new marketing strategy, and that's what's going to give them the breakthrough, then that's what they're going to pursue. It's only when they realize themselves, I am the one who's getting in the way. That's the work I need to do first, and then everything else will work from there, because it is the personal growth which leads to professional growth. You can't have it the other way around, because if you try and do the professional growth first, you're going to hit a brick wall at some point, and then it's very likely that you will come back down to your comfort level. Even if you went beyond that at some point, you will come back to it, because that's what that's what you're familiar with. We want what's normal for us.
Oh, absolutely.
And we will strive to keep that normality going no matter what, even if it goes against what we want to build in life.
You bet. Yeah, that's fascinating. It's interesting how people build these sandcastles in their mind, if you will, that prevents them from doing the basics of the business that need to be done, or the basics of people development that need to be done. And so much of it is, I again encounter a lot of not so much their own self-limiting beliefs, but them trying to project that onto other people. And they project onto other people what they're afraid of themselves, and have a very hard time of just, well, okay, why don't you just drop that belief about what these other people think and go ask them? Why don't you drop that belief about what they think and just go, find a way to get inside of what it is they do want. And it's this strange dichotomy that goes on with, I've joked about it with my clients and as a group, is like the strange environment where people will argue with me when I'm trying to show them how they can be way more successful, and they're trying to prove to me that they can't. It's this strange, I want to pay somebody for me to reinforce my self-limiting beliefs and tell you about all the handicaps that I have. And you mentioned COVID. During COVID, most of the clients I was working with across several different industries, they were up 20 or 30%. They weren't suffering, and whether if advisor was used to doing dinner meetings and went to webinars, well, there's a little bit of a learning curve, but the reach was so much more broad, and if they could convert those to clients. And one of the things I think a lot of them finally got across is they weren't so geographically limited too. I see advisors who think all their clients have to be within, 5 miles of their office, where all of a sudden they were able to work with people across, across Europe, across the UK, across North America. A lot of our guys can be licensed anywhere in the United States. So, all of a sudden they have clients who are at the opposite end of the country from them rather than down the street. And it, once they have that breakthrough, it's hard to go back, right? Once you figure out that you don't have the geographic limitations, let's say, you can certainly scale a lot faster.
Huge opportunities. There's always huge opportunities in every situation. There are a few people who will grab those opportunities, but most people will just sit back and wait and see what happens. And then if they see other people doing, they'll think, okay, I'll have a go. But they will be waiting, and that means there's money they're leaving on the table.
Yeah. I certainly see that in on the marketing side. It seems like advisors have very ingrained beliefs on what will and will not work for them, for their niche, for their industry, with no evidence base whatsoever, other than it's what other people say. Social media marketing won't work for me. Direct mail marketing won't work for me. Newspaper advertising won't work for me. Whatever it might be, they have very rigid beliefs already about media, even though I can show them 100 examples of other people who are using it effectively. But there's this commonality. I've worked with Dan Kennedy. He called it marketing incest, where everybody kind of looks at what everybody else is doing and does the same thing. Strangely fixed beliefs on what they can and can't do. Talk to that a little bit.
Yes, that's the belief that it's not going to work for me. And it's very hard to persuade people if they have that fixed mindset. I can't convince anyone, as I said, to work on their mindset, because if they don't believe that's the cause, then they're not going to be a good client.
Yeah.
And there are so many people who will be thinking, well, maybe I should be trying social media, or maybe I should be trying this, or maybe I should be trying that. And those are the people that you want to work with, who have that open thinking. I find it I don't try and convince people who don't think the same, they're not on the same page, because they'll find other people to work with. I want to talk to people who are at that point where they think, now is the time for me to talk to someone about working on my mindset. Mm-hmm. And there are so many wonderful people to work with. The market is huge, that it doesn't matter if some people just aren't going to be convinced of a change or trying something new. It's very difficult to persuade people. I've got my own fixed views about certain things where I'm entrenched in my beliefs. If someone came to me and tried to convince me otherwise, they would have a really hard time shifting my thinking.
Yeah. And not to always bring everything back to marketing, but that what you just said is why it's so important to figure out who you work with, who you click with, who you love to work with, and then figure out where to go find them en masse, right? Let's go find a pond of them. Let's go find a lake of them. Let's go find groups of them and collect them in groups rather than onesie twosies.
Yes, people who resonate with the message. That's why it's so important, as you know, to have a clear message about what you have identified as a problem. So people put up their hands and said, how did you get inside my head? This is exactly what I'm struggling with. And we only need, a few good clients to have a good business.
Yeah. The old marketing maxim, I think it was John E. Kennedy from years ago, but he said, you want to get inside the conversation already going on in their head. And
yeah, it's finding that 3 a.m. problem, isn't it? Speaking to that problem.
Exactly. But then make sure everything you're doing is congruent with that. I mean, the worst thing you want to do is create a great marketing message, and then behind the scenes, you're not really the right person to resonate with that person. You're not a good fit.
Exactly. Yes. Yes. It's staying true to that. It's aligning, isn't it? The message, the niche, your solution, and staying very tight on that.
Yeah.
Which again could be a challenge for many people, because we want to talk about, well, I can help you with this, and I can also help you with that. I can do that, and I can do that. But it just gets really fuzzy and very, very messy and confusing.
Yeah. Hey, Nina, this has been great. I'm running up against a time barrier here. For anybody who wants to work with you, find out more about what you do. Hopefully, we'll be doing a lot of work together and sharing more of what you do with our clients and people who follow me. But tell them how they could reach out to you. What would be a good way to find out more? And of course, we'll put it in the show notes and so forth as well.
Well, thank you. The best way is I'd like to offer something to your audience, if I may. I've written a book called Renegade Mindset, which I've co-authored with a financial advisor, Dan Caprill. And it's really all about how to create a peak performance.
It's Lee Milt here, and I'm delighted to interrupt you today and let you know that I've been working with Stephen Oliver for 10 or 15 years now. He's a great guy. I love all the research that he does. And I just wanted to let you know that if you're enjoying the content on this podcast, then you really want to make time to visit advisorwealthmastery.com. And why should you do that? Well, because you're going to receive 2 of his great books and actually one of mine called Success is an Inside Job. You'll also get a lot of absolutely free material on growing your practice through effective marketing. So again, take the time to go to advisorwealthmastery.com.
Mindset for financial advisors so they can grow their profits. There's lots and lots of great mindset strategies, which are very easy to implement, lots of tips, lots of advice, lots of help. And it's just packed full of really, really valuable information. If any of the listeners here are interested in how they can create new beliefs, which are going to help them to make bigger decisions, grow their businesses, their profit, then I would love to offer a free copy to your viewers. And I have the link for it. So if anyone would like to download it, it's a really quick read. You can read it within an hour or 2 easily, and then start taking action from the book.
Yeah, I should have had here on my desk. I've got it in my library upstairs. I purchased that. I don't know how long it's been out. I think I picked it up a couple years ago. It was one of the 100 or so that was on my list back just post COVID, probably. The link for somebody who doesn't see the link in the show notes is Nina Cooke, COOKE.co.uk, and then renegade-book-download. So if somebody's hearing this and they don't see the link, that's the direct link. Against, we'll share it with everybody. And I'm sure they're welcome to visit your website at ninacook.co.uk as well. But
yes, absolutely. And if they'd like to email me, you can email me at nina@ninacook.co.uk, and I will respond. And yeah, I'd love to hear from anyone.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, hey, thank you so much. Anything that you might add that would be a benefit for the advisors before we sign off for today?
Think big.
Think big.
You are so much more powerful than you think you are.
Yeah. Yeah. And the opportunity is so much bigger than you can see right now.
It's huge.
Yeah.
And some people are grabbing that opportunity every day.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's not that they were given more resources or anything else. They just had the ability to take off the blinders and see it.
Absolutely. Yes. And grab it with both hands.
There you go. Well, thank you very much. This has been great.
Thank you.